when you want to know more about what's going on, the truth, a more true assessment of what's going on with the Democrats, you go to the conservative Fox. If you want to know what the Republicans do, you go to. Now they're both lying on each other. They're adding more to with each other and not and omitting more important information. But you'll get a little bit more truth if you go to the opposite network for the op information. So Dean Phillips goes on here because he knows he can say more about what's happening with the Democrats on this network than he can on any other network. But I'll preface this next segment with this, and that is it is becoming more clear and clearer to the establishment that they no longer can continue saying something, trying to propagandize their audience about something in particular when there's an elephant in the room that's literally saying the opposite. So what this special counsel report did is put something that people are kind of little bit talking about and more sort of talking about it in the realm of this is silly talk. His age is silly talk. But this coming out in the special counsel report, meaning in their this is their institutions. This is coming from one of their institutions, a special counsel report. When it shows up there, it legitimizes it. It legitimizes everything that people has been saying. You can now no longer act like this is just some flippant thing in mainstream corporate media. You have to take it serious now. And the fact that they have to take it serious, they know that us having to talk about this in a serious way and seriously acknowledge it, we understand this is a severely wounded candidate, that we can no longer pretend like his wing is still flying. We were able to pretend, but now that this medical report has come out on his wing, I'm using an analogy, we can no longer pretend like he can fly. And if he can't fly, he can't win. So he got to go. And let's listen to this.
Dean Phillips is a Democrat running for president. He joins Primetime. Dean, what was your reaction to that report and then that press conference? Do you think the president has what it takes?
Well, Jesse, and thanks for having me on, by the way. It was sad. Most patriotic Americans probably watched that press conference, saw a decent man, and I want to really defend him. He is a decent man, and I have to get in front of the country and talk about his son, Beau, defend himself from these charges. I thought it was a sad day, and frankly, and I think you would all agree, we wouldn't be having these conversations if he was not running for president again. I respect him, but that's the problem. And by the way, Donald Trump, not that far behind him. I think that's the problem. Jesse, 70-some% of the country wants to move on from this chapter. We have two presidents, a former president, a current president, that frankly people have lost faith in, I think, broadly. And that's why I'm actually excited that we might have an opportunity to have a next generation president. And just imagine, Jesse, if we had a president, Democrat or Republican in the White House, who actually wanted to solve problems, work with members on both sides of the aisle in the White House, that's my proposition. And I sure hope we get the chance because this is tragic.
Well, I don't know if anyone's going to get the chance. They might be stuck with Joe Biden. And in terms of mental capacity, Trump's light years ahead of Joe Biden. Just look at him and the polls show the same thing. But you say decency. He's a decent man.
And I'm not in the business of agreeing with Jesse Waters on that channel. He's one of the most ridiculous people on the channel. But what he's saying here, and I'm going to let him repeat it. What he's saying here is a good point. And I must say I agree with this freaking clown, but this point.
Light years ahead of Joe Biden. Just look at him. And the polls.
And I thought I rewinded far enough. I don't need to replay it again. He says Donald Trump is light years ahead of Biden. And that's why, even though their age is close, the polls are polar opposites. People don't view Donald Trump the same, even though their age is different, because people can see mainstream media has had to use the term age as an all-inclusive thing when really talking about his mental faculty, his ability, his mental acuity. they've been using age. And now with the special counsel report, now you can't just say this is age, because it's age and it's some other mental problem. Whereas people can see with Trump, he's just stupid. People know the difference between him mixing up name because he's stupid versus a guy and like stupid and never been in government and doesn't care to even learn anything. That's Donald Trump. That's different than gas because of a cognitive issue that people can clearly see. But back to the interview.
Show the same thing, but you say decency. He's a decent man. You can squabble with that. But wouldn't a decent leader maybe put the country above his legacy and his ego and do the right thing? Or is that Jill's job?
No, Jesse, in fact, I was the first Democrat in July of 2022 to publicly call on the president to pass the torch. He implied he would only serve one term, of course. I've been doing that on a mission. I invited other candidates who are better known than me to enter the race because democracy requires competition. The GOP has a number of candidates running right now, of course. And yes, I think he should be putting both his own legacy and the country, most importantly, ahead. And I think he's making the wrong decision for both by running again. I've been making that contention, much to the chagrin of my colleagues, as you well know. But I'm just saying the quiet part out loud, Jesse. I wish we had more here in Washington who are willing to torpedo their careers in Congress so as not to torpedo the country.
All right. Also important, Chiefs or Niners, Dan?
You're putting...
Yeah, and that is Dean Phillips publicly saying, and he's already been saying it, but the fact that he comes out, I think, less than 24 hours after the press conference to just sort of pile on what's happening to Joe Biden on this conservative network. And he understands this is a conservative network, and he's on his way out. He doesn't have a career in the Democratic Party after this. He understands that, but let's get to the next receipt here. And this started us out with the title, where this is actually somebody saying this guy has got to go. Now let's go to the reaction. Like we've already covered on the network. We've already covered like the special counsel report. We've already covered the reaction. Make sure you check out Nick's stream earlier today. He covered a little bit more of it. I'm here to talk about the fallout. So, in the fallout, there's two people in the crosshairs of the fallout of this whole special counsel report. One is Joe Biden, as you just saw in the clip I just played with Dean Phillips. The other one is Merrick Garland for even appointing a special counsel. That's one. And two, appointing a special counsel that is Republican, because this guy, Hur, spelled H-U-R, I think it's Richard Hur, is a Republican, apparently, that he appointed to do this. And then thirdly, why didn't you edit the report before you released it to edit this part out? Because Merrick Garland saw this before it came out. You understand that? His office saw this. It has to be approved by him before it goes public. And he doesn't have to make it public. That's another thing. He doesn't have to make the findings public. But let's listen to one of the two targets that this fallout is targeting, Merrick Garland, like as I said. But don't let the Democrats make you believe that they are not in full, like, I don't even know. I don't even know what level you could give it, like a code red. Like code red is code red time, because in unison, everybody is responding forcefully. Everybody is being brought on. What do you think? You've been with him. I mean, for Joe Biden to immediately go to a press conference, for Kamala Harris to immediately come out and say stuff, for Hillary Clinton. We're going to show all of that in just a second. But let's start with this clip here, Fox News. Let's listen, and we'll come on comment on the
action continues to pour in from Capitol Hill. Critics say Democrats predictably attacking Special Counsel Robert Hur. The vice president today also attacking Robert Hur. Hillary Vaughn has more. Hillary.
Good evening, Liz. Well, Democrats say that the special counsel went out of his way to embarrass President Biden by bringing up his poor memory, and that distracted from the ultimate vindication that the president is not being charged for mishandling classified information.
It came back and exonerated him completely. There was an effort, which I view as totally political, to bury that basic news in completely gratuitous swipes about President Biden's age and his memory.
But other Democrats have a problem with how the president handled the aftermath that followed this report, saying the last-minute late-night press conference he held might have done more damage.
I'm a senior Democratic politician. I've been doing this for a long time. That's not the way you want to do it. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. He was angry. He was frustrated by what came out. It didn't go well. Okay, there's no doubt about that.
Some Republicans, from Congresswoman Claudia Tenney to Senator Josh Hawley, are saying it's time for the 25th Amendment to be on the table. But other Republicans say that would just put the Vice President, Kamala Harris, in the Oval Office, something they don't think would be any better for the country.
What we've got to do is just make sure this man does not serve a second term. It's not him. It's whoever is running the country. He's the leader of the free world. He's cognitively not there.
Biden's cognitive decline becoming a big headache for his campaign. His 2024 rival, Congressman Dean Phillips, says his phone has been blowing up from some of his fellow Democratic colleagues who admit to him in confidence that they are worried. Liz?
Interesting. Hillary Vaughn, thank you so much for your great reporting, as always.
So, and I forgot, I should have said a third person. That is true.
Action continues to pour in from Capitol Hill.
Richard Hurd is the third person that is in the crosshairs of this, the fallout of this whole thing. So let me take you through. Let me see if I can do this in a particular order here. And let's start with this headline. This is a headline. I think this is Daily something. Let me see, who is this from here? Daily Mail. There we go. And this headline says, Biden, 81, plans to make AG Merrick Garland fall guy for bombshell report, special counsel report, that branded him senile old man as aide releases panic statement and insiders claim better makeup could help solve age issue. Oh, God, that is terrible. But let's read a little bit. I just clipped a little bit from the article, so there's a couple of parts I just took out from the article. I read the whole article, and I just took out a couple of things I wanted to make sure I conveyed that the article said. And this is first paragraph says, top Biden aides have even suggested Garland should have edited the parts that made the president look like a senile old man, despite Biden vowing to hire an impartial attorney general in the wake of Trump presidency. So this article is saying, like I was saying earlier, that why didn't you edit it? That's what one of Biden's top aides is saying, is why the hell didn't you edit it, Merrick Garland? And this is another part that the article says, Biden has not commented on Garland's future, but the belief is that the attorney general will not remain in his post for the possible second term, according to sources. So this will cost Merrick Garland a second term as AG. Now, to be fair, this is not the first time there's been some sort of friction with Merrick Garland. They thought he was slow moving with a lot of the charges that came down, a lot of the movement with the Justice Department on the Trump campaign. People thought he was moving slow. Let's get to some other snippets from the article. This part here, a former senior Justice Department official insisted that the frustration at Garland are better directed at the White House. Biden's team had the option to exert executive privilege over elements of Hurd's report, but chose not to. Didn't know that. While Garland would have had to explain any redactions to Congress if he had edited the report. So if Garland edited the report, he would have to explain why the redactions. So that's a possible reason. This article is saying that's a possible reason why he didn't make redactions or edited. The way in which the White House story kept changing at the outset made it much more difficult for the Justice Department to resist having a special counsel. Because remember when the report came out that, these classified documents came out in Trump, and then all of a sudden it came out in Biden, and it came out in Pence, and everybody had classified documents, because the story that the Biden administration and the Biden camp and the Biden himself was giving was changing. He felt forced to have to make a special counsel appointment, sources say. In this last part, Biden is said to be unimpressed at Attorney Garland over the report, according to two sources close to the president, as it could threaten his campaign. So they're in full panic. It's all over the news. Like every news show is devoting several segments to it. Even still today, they're still talking about. Even Axelrod was on the Smirkanage show, which is on CNN. He was on there today. Let's continue now to some other receipts here. I want you to listen to this part here. We're going to play this one. I'm trying to quickly remember what they say. So that's why I scrolled up and said, oh, this one says this. So we're going to go to this one first to give a little more foundational information to the story.
Any reaction from the White House to some of the contentions, suggestions, observations in Special Counsel Robert Hur's report about the president's memory?
In the statement responding to the Hur report, the special counsel was very pleased, he said, that there were no charges found, and went on to say that this is what they assumed would happen all along because there was no wrongdoing in this matter. But Major, at the very end of the statement, he does write that we disagree with a number of inaccurate and inappropriate comments in the special counsel's report. Nonetheless, the most important decision the special counsel made, that no charges are warranted, is firmly based on the facts and evidence. And so they are saying some of the characterizations of President Biden and his memory are not rooted in facts, but rather are subjective. But, Major, these descriptions are very damaging to President Biden, potentially, especially given the context that there are already so many mounting questions about his age and his mental fitness. In this report, the special counsel writes as one example that that Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. He goes on to list several examples of when Mr. Biden could not remember when he served as vice president, as another example, or when his son Beau died. And there are many of these. In fact, so many that the White House counsel sent a letter to her asking that you revisit and revise your descriptions of President Biden's memory.
What does that do
in the report? Because again, the environment.
That's like when they say, jury, you're to disregard this. What? You mean the thing you just showed me? Oh, let me take that out of my brain. Yes, that's so what does that do? He comes back and says, I was mistaken. Joe Biden is a Harvard grad and he is at the top of his game. What is that going to do? It is absurd. Let's let there's a few seconds left on this video.
With which this is coming out is really important, Major. And the Trump campaign is going to seize on these descriptions about the president's mental fitness and sharpness as they, build their case against the president to come back to the White House.
Not looking good for the president. That's CBS
Any reaction
News.
from the White House to some of the contentions, suggestions, observations in special counsel?
The things like his age was always presented on news outlets like regular broadcast networks, CBS, joke, not really serious. With the special counsel report, even 24-hour news networks, that meaning non-cable networks who would cover stuff like this, they're having to cover it seriously. They're having to give it serious play under the guise that this is coming from an institutionalist called the special counsel. So they can't denigrate the institution. You get what I'm saying? So they really can't go at him on CBS News, that is. Now, let's listen to the exchange press secretary had with Peter Doocy Jr., or Peter Doocy, I think that's his name. Now, him and her always go at it, and you can tell he's enjoying it. He has a little bit of smirk on his face if it shows it in his video, but let's listen. She knows, oh, God, this guy's going to ask some question I'm going to fucking hate. Now, listen to this.
If the special counsel says President Biden's got significant limitations on his memory, then who is helping him run the country?
The President of the United States runs the country. The Commander-in-Chief runs the country.
If the special counsel says President Biden's got significant limitations on his memory, then who is helping him run the country?
The President of the United States runs the country. The Commander-in-Chief runs the country.
If the special counsel says President Biden's got significant limitations on his memory, then who is helping him run the country?
The President of the United States runs the country. The Commander-in-Chief runs the country.
You know how terrible and how awkward it is that she is having to field questions like this that she can't swat away because this came from a special counsel report. She can't just swat this away. She has to answer it. And she's put in this terrible position. Identity politics is a great thing, isn't it, guys? Oh my God, that was glorious to watch that. But let's watch another one. These are just short snippets. People chiming in different tidbits about the story. I want to make sure to include. Here's another one.
And secondly, the Biden campaign will be showing and sort of saying out loud that the special counsel was Trump appointed, and that he is not a doctor, he is a lawyer, and that the things that the special counsel have written about Biden's mental capacity, he doesn't actually have the authority to say and should not be listened to.
So if you say, Jay, when did you get married to your wife? And I go, dang, was it 2000? What was it? 2018? Was it? Like, I'm saying wild numbers. You can't. Do you have to have a medical degree to simply write, Jay could not remember the date when he got married? Why does it take a doctor? But that's what they're trying to convince their audience. It takes you a doctor to listen that a person can't answer simple questions. That takes a doctor? But this snippet here is before he went and gave his press conference, and she was prepping the audience, saying he's going to be coming out saying this, going after, and how he's Trump appointed, meaning Richard Hur is Trump appointed, and that he's a lawyer and not a doctor. Like, you need to be a doctor to know that somebody is not able to remember something when you ask them a question. The foolery of these people. It is a professional managerial class. All right, so that was the last one before I get to, what's this one?
Special counsel wrote that the president.
Oh yeah, this is it. Sorry, this is it. So let's listen to this one right here. Now, I was going to play a lot more of the Morning Joe clip, and I still may, because it's glorious and it's long though. Segment, I should say. They covered this and he was mad. They were furious over this. But let's listen to this. This is a snippet of the same segment, only a minute and a half. The segment is like a 10-minute segment.
The special counsel wrote that the president could also portray himself at trial as an elderly man with a poor memory who would be
You can hear her
sympathetic to a
laughing.
jury. Hers description.
A neurologist and a lawyer.
Let me just finish, but I agree.
Well, no, but we kind of need to stop there. A neurologist.
You're talking about her.
Her from Trump University.
No.
And I mean, I've got to stop right here. I know we want to go on and finish this report, but I've just got to start. Ken Delanian, so bizarre, and there's so many people that immediately heard these random conclusions, irrelevant conclusions, politically charged, Trump-like ramblings. Who, first of all, wondered why in the world he would put that in a report, his neurological assessment of Joe Biden, and secondly, why Merrick Garland would release garbage like that in the Justice Department report. Can you give us any insight? Because it sure sounds like James Comey in 2016, who July couldn't indict Hillary Clinton legally, so he decided to hold a press conference and indict her politically.
So this is where it began, where I first heard about the problem they had with Merrick Garland. Because just to be honest with you, I hadn't been following the classified documents probe, the special counsel probe on this. I hadn't been following it. So this is where I found out, this segment is where I found out they're seething at Merrick Garland.